Welcome, everybody. We are on day 146 of the GC 365 Bible reading, and I am very excited to introduce my mom, Fran, who is visiting us from California. This is her first time being up here since December 2019. So, Mom, thank you for being here. Very excited to have you here. And you are also an online viewer.
I am an online viewer. I started watching at the very beginning of the COVID, watching the daily devotions, moving on to their worship service, their beautiful music. It's just it was a good space for me to be in. So, and now I'm doing the 365. Mm-hmm. And
is this your first time reading the Bible?
Yes. Not actually. My husband and I started reading the Bible after he had a stroke, but somewhere we got lost in the middle. So here I am, a young 83-year-old, hoping to finish the Bible for the first time.
Not hoping, that's going to happen. So we're going to make that happen. So anyhow, we're on day 146. We're in 2 Samuel 9, and when we talked about this, Mom, I love the word that you used, complicated, in describing David, because we see a lot of neat characteristics and traits in his personality, from his kindness that he showed for Jonathan's son, in the loyalty that he had after Hanan's dad died, and then also after they sent the troops in to... when he sent those troops in, he also, and then they ended up cutting off the beards and the clothing. He showed his compassion through saying, "Oh, just kind of stay there and wait until they got," because they felt such shame and deep humiliation. So those were some really neat things that we kind of learned about David at the beginning part of this.
His wonderful qualities.
Yes, his wonderful qualities. Yep. So then it went on to talk about how they defeated the Ammonites, and we got introduced a little bit more to Joab, the army commander, and then we get introduced to Bathsheba, and that's kind of where
beautiful Bathsheba,
the unusual beauty of Bathsheba, and so that was quite a different side of him that we saw, because then she ended up pregnant, and then David tried to talk Uriah, her husband, into kind of getting home with her, stay with her to kind of cover things up. And he stayed out in the palace. And when that sort of those ideas didn't work, he had him put on the front lines, and he ended up dying. Right. So that was kind of, we saw his cover up in some of those schemes. The cover up failed, I guess. And what I enjoyed about this, the last line of this, I just lost my place here for a second.
Not so kind.
Yeah, we'd seen the compassion, the loyalty, the kindness, the sympathy, and then all of a sudden, this is not too appealing of a side of David to put that into action. But what I love, the last line of our reading for today about Bathsheba, after her husband Uriah died, and she gave birth to David's son, but the Lord was displeased with what David had done. So that's kind of like, that pretty much sums it up.
Right.
So we kind of saw a bunch of different aspects of his character. But then we get into John 15, and this is a wonderful passage about I'm the true grapevine and my Father is the gardener. And you live in California, in Gilroy, and you are surrounded by grapevines and vineyards. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we have some vineyards on our road, and that they're a wonderful thing to watch as they go through the season. In February, they are usually pruned just almost bare, that you wouldn't know that there was anything there, but just the vine itself. And then come the springtime, come the buds, come summertime, it comes the leaves and everything. And then near later summer or midsummer come the wonderful pods of grapes just hanging from the vines. It's absolutely beautiful. But back in February, when they're pruned, they're also all the trimmings and all the trimmings, and they are burned at that time, as it says in the Bible. They just kind of got that down right in the Bible, and we get it down right. So then comes the wonderful clusters of grapes, and then they're harvested. And then then by fall time, the fields are just this colorful fall color of the leaves and so forth. And then they start all over again in February, which is kind of a wonderful thing to see.
And I love that imagery because like, the specific parts of the Bible, like you said, anyone who does not remain in me is thrown away like a useless branch and withers. Such branches are gathered into a pile to be burned. So that's literally what happens.
Yes.
But then, for a branch cannot produce, this is before, a branch cannot produce fruit if it is severed from the vine. You cannot produce fruit unless you remain in me. And these are the words of Jesus. So that's such a cool image. And so as far as harvest and those beautiful things in nature and creation, you also have, you like to take zinnias from the time of seeds. So share a little about that.
I love the dirt. I love to plant zinnias in the summertime because they are a wonderful, great, beautiful flower. I plant them from seed and take care of them, tend them, water them, talk to them, nurse them along. And all of a sudden, they're 5 feet high with blossoms as big as this with brilliant and beautiful colors that one can hardly imagine unless you're there. And they're also individuals. So as I tend to them, I think of God tending to us in His love and in His grace, and as I am tending to the flowers and hoping. Yes, I am. I'm going to say it, hoping that each of us as individuals can turn into this wonderful blossom and beautiful and great flower that goes out and serves the Lord.
Well, and it's so beautiful because the vibrant colors, the reds, the pinks, the yellows, it's such a gorgeous garden that you create, and then you turn them into bouquets, and you bless your friends and the community, and I think that's a nice thing, kind of the image of tending a garden, whether it's the vine and the grapes or your zinnias. It's just such a nice imagery of and the pruning process of what we go through with that Jesus speaks of.
The more I cut the branches, the more they grow.
And then so that leads into we kind of enjoyed this psalm as far as it wasn't really one. We didn't feel sort of one of those despair or distress crying out psalms, but it was a nice comforting and hopeful psalm. And there was something that I think
had one
struck
to say,
you.
This was Psalm 119, and for me it was a psalm of hope and promise and love, and it just felt like to me it felt just like a wonderful psalm because many of the psalms are crying out for help. This was a very comforting one for me, and there was a verse 35 I wanted to read. I
think it's 55. Yeah, 55.
55.
I think.
Okay, I reflect at night on who you are, O Lord, meaning that those of us in that 80-year-old group sometimes have insomnia, so it's a great time for me to do some praying. So yeah,
and some of us younger ones too.
And then the other thing is that it is about God's unfailing, steadfast love, which is great.
Yep. And I rise at midnight to thank you. So that's another beautiful image. Another beautiful image of the nighttime. So, and then it ended with the Proverbs 16, 1-3. And I like how it ended here with just commit your actions to the Lord and your plans will succeed. I think it's simple and basic, but just, it's one of those that's always a nice reminder of what we give to him will bring about success in his way and his time. So I love that. And then, so I think finally to close, I wanted to go back to John 15 because you and I, we we read through this together. Right. We read through it separately. We listened to the app. We looked at different versions and kind of went through all this in different ways. But the thing that stood out to me this morning when I went back to the app for this entire section of John 15, 1-27, it's all Jesus's words. And we had done a sermon series here recently about red letter questions where Jesus asks the questions and in the Bible they're in red. Well, this entire section are quotes from Jesus. He's speaking directly. There's not even a he said, or he told his disciples, or he walked to the mountaintop. It's when you look at the app, it's all his words. They're all in red. And so I just think that's such a beautiful thing to think about as we go into our day 146 of the 1 year Bible reading. I hope you find encouragement of that. I think to me, it's just to think of those red words of Jesus. And again, how he says, if you remain in me and my words remain in you. And so just may we abide in him today. May we look at all these words that he spoke and speaks to us today through his word, and just hopefully be encouraged. And again, remain in him, abide in him, and have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining us. Mom, thank you for being here.
Thank you for allowing me asking me to help.
Yes.
Love it.
Have a good day. Thank you.